Here's an example where we're trying to find, they're giving us the graph of a tangent function and they're saying, tell us the equation. We're kind of working backwards from the graph back to the equation, and they're telling us the form of the equation right here. So the form is y equals minus tangent bx plus c. So we know there's a negative in the front. That's clear because the graphs are going down to the right, aren't they? Down to the right. So that's why there's a negative in the front. Okay, so let's start with this item out here. What is that guy going to be? That is the number added or subtracted outside after the parentheses. So it's the vertical shift. It's normally we call it D in our general form normally, but something you got to get used to in math and science. Different people call different things by different names, so you have to really recognize items instead of by A, B, C, or D, is more by their position. So it's the number, look, is it inside the parentheses or outside? Is it next to the X multiplied or next to the X added, subtracted? So this is a number outside the parentheses, added or subtracted. We normally call it D. They're calling it C. You could call it any name you want. The important part is that's the vertical shift. That's the vertical shift. If you look back at the notes, so it's the D. It's what moves the graph up, positive up, negative down. So that's what it is. It's up or down, positive up, negative down, at the center. So at the center, where is this graph? Well, there it is. It's up to at the center. So that means that this, call it C or D or whatever you want, has got to be a 2. We're calling it C here. So C has got to be a plus 2. So far, we're getting pretty close. We have the C or the D or whatever you want to call it. We have the number outside the parentheses got to be plus 2, up 2, because that's right at the center 0. And this graph has no horizontal shift, notice, because there's no number in there in the parentheses added after the X. So the horizontal shift is going to be 0. So 0 really is the center, and it's up 2 there. So that number added outside the parentheses has got to be 2. That's why that's the case. So now, last thing is we got to figure out B. So to figure out B, it has to do with the period. We have the period formula from the notes, which is pi over B. That's for tangent. Sine and cosine, remember the period was 2 pi over B, but that was for sine and cosine. Tangent's only pi over B. It's half that amount, pi over B. So what's the period? Well, the period is how far from cycle to cycle. Right? It's the width of each cycle. It's how far from cycle to cycle. So from here to there, that's the period. And so how far is that? That looks like 4. Period is 4, and then it does it again. See how it's just 4? Just does it again. It's always 4. The period is 4. It just keeps, every cycle is 4 away from each other. That's the period. And so 4 is pi over B, so we can solve that equation now for B. Put this over 1, cross multiply. 4 times B is 1 times pi. 4B is pi. Last step, divide by 4. Boom. B is pi over 4. So we got it. We got B is pi over 4. So we have the equation. It's negative tangent of B, which is pi over 4x, plus the C, and what was the C? 2. There we go. That must be the equation producing this graph. That's how we do that.